This is the story of Joseph, a story full of drama, betrayals, lies, family conflicts, and injustice. At the same time, it is one of the most beautiful demonstrations of the meaning of forgiveness and the trust of a man in the Lord's plans. Watch this video to the end and discover the story of Joseph. But first, if you are not subscribed, please subscribe and don't forget to give it a like to support our channel. The Holy Bible is a book that shows us numerous fascinating stories about the interaction between man and his Creator. Many lessons within it are meant for man's spiritual development. One such story is the story of Joseph of Egypt, described in the book of Genesis in the Holy Scriptures. Joseph grew up in a large family, being the youngest of 11 brothers and the firstborn son of Rachel, the woman Jacob loved the most. Rachel had spent much of her life barren, and undoubtedly, Joseph's birth was a divine miracle. Joseph was born in his parents' old age, making him Jacob's favorite son. Jacob first showed his preference for Joseph by gifting him a long, colorful tunic. From that moment, Joseph's brothers grew to hate him more each day out of envy and jealousy. The story goes that one day young Joseph had a dream and decided to share it with his brothers. He dreamed that he was binding sheaves of grain in the field when suddenly his sheaf rose and stood upright, while the sheaves of his brothers gathered around and bowed down to his sheaf. Joseph also had a second dream, where the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him. When he shared this dream, his family rebuked him, and his brothers became even more resentful. No one, not even Joseph, imagined that these dreams were related to something grand that God had planned for the future. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers who were grazing the flocks. When his brothers saw Joseph approaching, they plotted to kill him. However, Reuben, one of the brothers, intervened to save him, and they decided instead to throw him into a pit. Later, they sold Joseph to Ishmaelite traders for 20 pieces of silver. To cover up their deed, they dipped Joseph's tunic in goat's blood and told their father that he had been killed by a wild animal. Jacob mourned deeply for many days over the loss of his beloved son. Despite these events, God was with Joseph, and everything that happened was part of God's perfect plan. Joseph was sold to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, and the Lord blessed Joseph, making everything he did prosper. Potiphar put him in charge of his entire household. However, Potiphar's wife tried to seduce Joseph, but he refused her advances, saying it would be a great sin against God and a betrayal of his master. Angered by his rejection, she falsely accused him of trying to assault her, leading to Joseph being imprisoned. Even in prison, God's favor was upon Joseph, and he soon gained the trust of the warden, who put him in charge of all the prisoners. Two of Pharaoh's officials, the cupbearer and the baker, were also imprisoned and had troubling dreams. Joseph interpreted their dreams, predicting that the cupbearer would be restored to his position while the baker would be executed. His interpretations proved true, but the cupbearer forgot about Joseph after being reinstated. 2 years later, Pharaoh had a disturbing dream that none of his wise men could interpret. The cupbearer then remembered Joseph and mentioned him to Pharaoh. Joseph was brought before Pharaoh and interpreted his dream, foretelling 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of severe famine. Joseph advised Pharaoh to appoint a wise and discerning man to oversee the collection and storage of food during the plentiful years to prepare for the famine. Pharaoh was impressed by Joseph's wisdom and appointed him as the ruler over Egypt, second only to Pharaoh himself. Joseph, now in a position of great power, married Asenath, the daughter of a high priest, and had 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. When the famine struck, it affected not only Egypt but also the surrounding regions, including Canaan, where Joseph's family lived. Jacob sent his sons to Egypt to buy grain. When they arrived, they did not recognize Joseph, who treated them harshly and accused them of being spies. To prove their honesty, he demanded they bring their youngest brother, Benjamin, to Egypt. The brothers returned home and persuaded Jacob to let Benjamin go with them. Upon their return to Egypt with Benjamin, Joseph revealed his true identity to his brothers. Overcome with emotion, he forgave them, explaining that God had orchestrated all these events for a greater purpose. Joseph invited his entire family to live in Egypt, where they would be provided for during the remaining years of famine. Jacob and his family moved to Egypt, and there was a joyous reunion between father and son. The story of Joseph reflects the image of Christ, who forgives humanity's sins when there is true repentance. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, leave a comment, and if you are not subscribed, subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell to not miss any interesting videos like this one.